Okay, good evening, everyone. So in the last classes, we completed the EC2 instance, right? And at the time of creating the EC2 instance, we discussed about all the different options like the purchasing model and the instance type and all the things. And we have used some kind of a storage, right? And we didn't discuss about what are the different types of storages available and what are the characteristics of those types of storage and everything. So today we will start with the storage concept. Let us go with what is a storage and what are the different types of storages available. On our Amazon platform, we have a service called Elastic Block Store, which is also called as a EBS, which can be used as a storage for your EC2 instances. So before that, first, what is a storage? What is the storage? Storage is a device in which we can store all the data, right? Okay, so do you guys know like what are the different types of hard disks available? Because we know that the storage is nothing but the hard disk, right? What are the different types of hard disks available? So we have magnetic hard drives, solid state drives, right? What are the difference between those two? What are the difference between those two types of hard disk? First thing, like storage is a device in which we can store the data. That everybody knows, right? So we know the best example for that is the hard disk. Hard disk is the best example, right? And we have pen drive is a type of a storage. Even the memory is also a type of a storage like RAM. RAM is also a type of a storage. But now coming to this hard disk, in the market, we have a different types of hard disks available. And out of those, the one which is mostly used is a magnetic drive. And the second one is a solid state drive. What is the difference between these two? Let us say if you have used both type of hard disks, what is the difference that you can observe? So what type of hard disk do you have in your computers, like a magnetic drive or a solid state drive? Okay, this solid state drive is also called as SSD. This is regularly called as HDD, normal hard disk drive and solid state drive. What is the difference between these two? In a simple statement, we can say that the performance of the solid state drive is high. Let us say if you have two computers, two laptops, in one laptop, you have a normal magnetic hard disk, and in another laptop, assume that you have a solid state drive. And both are having the same CPU, same RAM, same operating system, everything is the same. If you start both the laptops at a time, which one will start first? Like which one will boot up fast? SSD. Why? Everything will be depending on the performance, right? What is the performance you will get in the magnetic drive and what is the performance you will get in the solid state drives? Magnetic drive performance or I can say magnetic drive will have the throughput as a feature, or in other terms, I think in a simple statement, we can say that magnetic drive performance will be in terms of throughput. What is this throughput? Throughput is nothing but MB per second. Throughput is nothing but MB per second. How much data you can copy per second, that is called as MB per second. Whereas the solid state drives SSD performance will be measured in IOPS. What is this IOPS? Do you guys know what is this IOPS? IOPS stands for input output operations per second. Input and output operations per second. So what is this input and output operations? What kind of actions can be considered as input and output operations. Okay, let us say I am trying to copy some file from my hard disk to the pen drive. So what will happen? It will read the data and then the data will be copied. So the read performance will be depending on this particular input and output operations per second. And the copy, right? The copy process will be in terms of the throughput. Let us say you are having a database and you are using the database for an online store. Let us take the example of the Amazon online store. Assume that every second there will be 10,000 products to be purchased. So all the information to be stored in the database, right? Let us say if you are using a normal hard disk, which cannot support 10,000 write operations per second, then what will happen? The database performance will be very, very slow. The data will be in queue. It will take a lot of time to write the data. So in such kind of requirements, we have to consider the database which will give you more input and output operations per second. Let us say you are using some kind of an application where the employees or the users can download the data. In that particular scenario, what kind of performance we need? The data transfer speed, right? Whenever you're downloading the data be to be transferred with high speed. So depending on the requirement, we have to select which hard disk might fit for your requirement. Normal hard disk will give you the performance in terms of MB per second, data transfer speed. If your application requires, or if you have a requirement to get more data transfer speed, then you have to choose magnetic drive. And if your requirement is in terms of like more number of read and write operations, then you have to go for the SSD hard drive. Now on Amazon platform, what type of hard disks are available? SSD. They will provide you both type of hard disks. But before that, coming to this storage, we have two different categories of storage options available. Not only on Amazon, wherever you go, there are different types of categories available. One is like block-based storage, object-based storage, network storage, right? There are different things available. So here, what type of storage or what category of storage we need to use with your EC2 instance? Or let us say you are using a hard disk, right? What type of hard disk it is? Or what kind of data, what type of requirement you can use your hard disk, which is using in your laptop? What we can do with that? What is the requirement or what is the use of the hard disk in your laptop? What is the use of your hard disk in the laptop? Storage, only to store the data. Then what else we can do? The basic thing is installing the operating system, right? And then you can install some applications. You can store some data, any kind of data you can store. So here, just to understand better, let me list out two categories of databases first. One is a block-based storage. And the second one is object-based storage. What is the difference between these two? Block-based storage and object-based storage. This block-based storage allows to install operating system, softwares, and to store the data. Block-based storages will allow you to install the operating system. It will allow you to install the applications, and also it will allow you to store the objects, like to store the data. And then coming to the object-based storage, it will allow you to store the objects. What is the meaning of objects? Object is like files, folders, like images, documents, anything, any category, any kind of an object or any kind of a file can be stored into the object-based storage. So just I will give you a simple example. So everybody knows Google Drive, right? Can we install operating system in the Google Drive or a Dropbox? No, because they only support to store your objects. Even you cannot install an application or any software in the Google Drive. So the object-based storages are only used to store the objects, and you cannot install any kind of an operating system or a software. So now coming to our EC2, what category of storage is required to use with your EC2 instance? Can I use object-based storage as a primary storage for my EC2 instance? If Amazon allows you to store to use the object-based storage with your EC2 instance, you cannot install the operating system, right? So every EC2 instance requires a block-based storage. Like my laptop will have a solid state drive or a hard disk, whatever it is, right? But it requires an internal hard disk to install the operating system. In the same way, your EC2 instances requires a block-based storage. So coming to this block-based storage on Amazon platform, Elastic Block Store is the storage device, is the storage service which provides block-based storage, And coming to the object-based storage, we have a separate service called S3 that we will discuss once we are done with the Elastic Block Store. Elastic Block Store is a block-based storage service which is available on Amazon platform. So this Elastic Block Store is also called as EBS. In short, we call that Elastic Block Store as EBS. Okay, so now whenever we are creating an EC2 instance, we have to use the Elastic Block Store only. Whenever we create a Windows EC2 instance, we attach 30 GB of a storage. And whenever we creating Linux instance, we have attached 8 GB of a storage, right? So those are nothing but this Elastic Block Store. So let us say in my computer, I have one hard disk. And whenever I open my computer, you guys can see like this, right? And we don't call this as a hard disk, right? What we call this? Drive, C drive. Technically, we call it as a drive. In the same way, whatever the storage you will get on your operating system of the EC2 instance, that is called as EBS volume. Whatever the storage space we create, that is called as volume. So EBS volume can be used as a storage for the EC2 instances. And whenever you create a storage, that is called as volume in AWS. EBS storage is called as a volume. Volume, like volume 1, volume 2. You can create hundreds of volumes for your EC2 instance. Sometimes I might require 3 drives, C drive, D drive, E drive. So I can create 3 volumes and I can attach, or I can use all the 3 volumes with my EC2 instance. In these EBS volumes, we have different types available. We have 2 different types of EBS volumes available. One is root volume and the second one is EBS volume. Both are same, but the way how we use, they will be named as a root volume or EBS volume. What is a root volume is whatever the volume we use to install the operating system, that is called as a root volume. In a simple terms, C drive is called as a root volume. Because let us say in my computer, I have 3 partitions, C drive, D drive, E drive. In which partition the operating system got installed, that will be a C drive, right? The root volume is nothing but in which operating system installed. And the EBS volume is nothing but all other additional volumes. All other additional volumes are called as a EBS volumes. Okay, so now coming to the EBS, we have different types of EBS volumes available. These 2 are based on the usage, right? Based on the performance or based on the requirement, Amazon is providing you 5 different types of EBS options on Amazon platform. Types of EBS storage What I do is I will list out all the storage options available, and we can discuss about each and every storage option available on Amazon platform. Okay, before that, I have to show you one more thing. Whatever the volumes we create, those EBS volumes can be attached to a single computer at a time. Okay, it will be a little bit confused. Let us say you have a pen drive. Assume that you have a pen drive. At a time, to how many computers you can connect that pen drive? Only one, right? But after disconnecting from the one computer, can you connect the same pen drive to other computer? Yes. The same way, the EBS volumes can be attached. Attached is nothing but connecting. Technically, we use a term called attach. EBS volumes can be attached to a single EC2 instance at a time. At any given point of time, you can use the EBS volume with single EC2 instance only. You cannot connect single EBS volumes to multiple computers at a time, which is not possible with EBS. So now we will see about what is the types of the EBS volumes available on Amazon platform. Types of EBS or storage options. The first one is a general purpose SSD. In this category, Amazon is providing you two subtypes. One is a GP2 and the second one is a GP3. What is the GP2, GP3? All these things we can discuss while creating the EBS volumes practically. All the EBS volumes are same. The way how to create is the same, but the difference is how they will work. How much performance you will get, that based on that, these categorizations happen. And the second one is a provision IOPS SSD. Here we have IO 1 and IO 2. And the third one is throughput optimized HDD, which is called as ST1. And the fourth one is a cold HDD, which is called as SC1. And the finally fifth one is magnetic, also called as standard. These are 5 different types available. And in the first 2 types, we have 2 subtypes also available. All these 5, the first 2 are SSD category. The general purpose SSD and the provisioned IOPS SSD are SSD category, in which the dominant performance will be IOPS, input and output operations per second. That doesn't mean that you will not get throughput. Without throughput, there is no use of copying the data, right? So you will get, but there is no guaranteed or very high throughput available. You will get a decent throughput, but the majority of the performance will be based on input and output operations per second. Okay, right. So now what we do is, let us create each and every volume, and then we will see how the characteristics of each and every type. And one more thing, before creating the EBS volumes, I would like to mention one important point here. The EBS volumes, like what we call that, we have to select the availability zone at the time of EBS volume creation. And we can attach the EBS volume to an EC2 instance which is in the same availability zone. Let us say my EC2 instance is running in Northern Virginia 1B availability zone. And if my EBS volume is in 1A availability zone, you cannot connect those two together. Both the EC2 instance and the EBS volume must be in the same availability zone. Okay, so before proceeding with the creation of the EC2 instance, EBS volumes, what I do is, first we will discuss about general purpose SSD. In that we have a category of GP2. Let us discuss about the GP2 category first. And while we are creating the volume, first we will create one EBS volume. Create EBS volume of 1 GB in size. As of now, we don't have any EC2 instances yet. We don't have any EC2 instances. Just I'm creating some kind of EBS volumes. Like before purchasing your servers, this is a kind of purchasing all the hard disks required for your servers. Later, we can create the EC2 instances and we can attach these EBS volumes to our EC2 instances. Create EBS volume of 1 GB. Wait, not like this. Create EBS volume of 1 GB in US East 1A availability zone with GP2 type. With GP2 type. That means EBS volume category will be GP2. And I will use a tag for identification purpose, 1 GB dash 1A dash GP2. By using this tag, I can easily identify that the size of the hard disk is 1 GB and it is created in 1A availability zone with the volume type of a GP2. While we are creating this, we have to observe the characteristics of the GP2. We have to observe the characteristics of the GP2. So we are noting down all these values. We are going to note down all these values at the time of EBS volume creation. By using these values, we can differentiate each and every EBS volume type. So let me go to EBS volume types, AWS documentation. There is a page, EBS documentation, where we can see the official details, official characteristics of each and every EBS volume. So under the solid state drives, you can see there are two types. One is a general purpose and the second one is provisioned IOPS. And we are talking about the general purpose SSD in which GP2 category, right? So what is the durability here? 99.8 to 99.9%. What is the durability? What is the meaning of a durability? That's a kind of a failure rate. Always in a given year, 99.8 to 99.9%, your EBS volume will be available. There will be no failures, and there is a chance that 0.1 to 0.2% of the failure rate. But you don't lose any data, but the failure rate, like availability kind of a thing. So here, this will be 99.8 to 99.9%. Okay, now we are going to create the EBS volume, right? So what is the minimum size we can create? Can I create with 100 MB size? Can I create 1 MB in size? There must be some minimum and maximum sizes, right? So now what I do is, these values we will note down at the time of creating the EBS volume. So before that, just we will see the overview of the GP2. So what is the use case? Medium size single instance databases or the low latency applications, and for development and test environments. These are the use cases of the general purpose SSD. And what is the volume size? 1 GB to 16 terabytes. The meaning of that is you cannot create a EBS volume with less than 1 GB in size. Minimum should be 1 GB and maximum will be 16 terabytes. And here the maximum IOPS will be 16,000 IOPS. What is the meaning of that? If I create 1 GB, Can I get 16,000 IOPS? No. There are some what we call that relation between the storage size and the IOPS. This is the maximum IOPS which we can get. If I go with 16 terabytes in size, I will get 16,000 IOPS. And in the GP2, you will get 250 MB per second throughput. And that is not like modified or something. You can get up to 250 MB per second. You cannot select how much throughput you need. And is it supported as a boot volume? What is the meaning of a boot volume? Boot volume and root volume, both are same. Boot volume and root volume are same. Now, what is the meaning of boot volume supported? I can use the GP2 to install my operating system. I can use the GP2 as a C drive. Okay, now we will verify all these options while creating the EBS volume. So now we are going to create the EBS volume of 1 GB in size. And in this particular availability zone, what is this availability zone? What is the region? I mean, the name of the region. This is the code, right? This indicates the region. US East 1 is the region. A is the availability zone. US East 1 is Northern Virginia region. Okay. So to create the EBS volumes, first go to your Amazon account. Do we have any separate service of EBS? No. The EBS is a feature of EC2 service. Go to EC2 service. EC2 is a service in which instance is one feature, EBS is another feature. Already we have seen what is an instance. Now, if you scroll down, you can see there is one option called Elastic Block Store. And here, click on the volumes. Click on the volumes under Elastic Block Store. Already I can see there is one volume is there. What kind of volume it is? GP2, okay. Why there is a EBS volume? We haven't created any EBS volumes yet, right? Why there is one volume is there? So if I go to the instances, you guys can see there is one EC2 instance running, right? Which we created in the last session. So this EC2 instance is a Linux instance. And what is the size we have selected? 8 GB. So you can, so 8 GB storage will be there, right? That is nothing but the volumes. That is nothing but this volume. Anyways, I deleted the EC2 instance, right? So this volume will be automatically deleted. Okay. So now to create the volume, click on the volumes under Elastic Block Store. Then click on create volume. So what is the volume type we are planning to create? GP2, right? If you have a different requirement, you can select the option from the drop-down menu. Select the GP2 from the drop-down menu under volume type. And what is the size? So here you can see what is the minimum size? 1 GB. Maximum 16,384 GB. That is equal to the 16 terabytes. Even you can see if you try to create a 0.5, like half GB, which is not allowed. Minimum you have to create 1 GB in size. Minimum to be 1 GB. Minimum size is a 1 GB. Then maximum size 16,384 GB, which is equivalent to 16 terabytes. If I try to create more than 16 terabytes, then it shows that I'm exceeding with 16,384 GB. Now, why I am saying that 16,384 is 16 terabytes? Okay. So why it's like I'm saying like this is equal to 16 terabytes? Okay, how many MBs of data is 1 GB? 1024, right? In the same way, 1024 GB is equal to 1 terabyte. Not like 1000 GB is 1 terabyte. 1024 GB is 1 terabyte. If you multiply like 1024 into 16, you will get this value. Okay, so the minimum size will be 1 GB in size. Okay, now what is the next value? Maximum size will be 16 TB. Then what is the IOPS? How you will get an IOPS? I am trying to create 1 GB, right? What is the minimum IOPS I will get? Can I select that I need like 100 IOPS or I need like 1000 IOPS like that? No. You can see here, based on the size, 100 IOPS got allocated for 1 GB drive. So can I consider that for every 1 GB, 100 IOPS will be assigned? No. Because if I go with 2, it should be 200, right? But still it is 100. So what is the ratio? On what basis you will get? But first thing is, IOPS will be assigned automatically, depends on the size of the volume. If you select 10 GB, you will get some number of IOPS. If you select 100 GB, you will get some number of IOPS. But on what basis you will get that? That is called as IOPS ratio. On what basis the IOPS will be assigned? Because there is no customization. You cannot customize that. With 1 GB of volume, I would like to have like 200 IOPS or 1000 IOPS. Depending on the size of your volume, you will get the IOPS automatically. So here you can see baseline of 3 IOPS per GB. What is the meaning of that? For every 1 GB of storage, you will get 3 IOPS. But why we are getting 100 IOPS for 1 GB of a volume? Because here you can see that with a minimum of 100 IOPS. With a minimum of 100 IOPS. That means minimum IOPS will be 100. As per the size, for 1 GB, we have to get 3 IOPS, but they are going to give you minimum 100 IOPS. They don't give you less than 100. So minimum will be 100 IOPS. Now, what is the ratio? What is the ratio? 1:3 ratio. 1 will be the GB and the 3 will be the IOPS. With minimum of 100 IOPS. With minimum of 100 IOPS. That means if I say like 10 GB in size, as per the ratio, 10 into 3 is 30 IOPS. So we have to get 30 IOPS. But because of this minimum number of IOPS, we will get 100 even if you are creating 10 GB in size. So then what is the maximum IOPS you can get? What is the maximum IOPS? If I select 16 terabytes, I will get the maximum IOPS, right? Okay. So here, if I go with like 33 GB, how much IOPS I will get? The same 100. Because 33 multiplied with 3 is 99. But what if I go for 34? 1 or 2. If I go with 40, then how many I will get? 120. So if I go for 5,555. But what about 10,000? 16,000 is the maximum limit. For 10,000 GB, you have to get 30,000 IOPS, right? But the GP2 will give you maximum 16,000 IOPS only. So the maximum IOPS, I can say that 16,000 IOPS. That is the maximum IOPS you can get in the GP2. Let us say I have one application which requires 20,000 IOPS. Can I use this GP2? No, I cannot use, because even if I create the 16 terabyte storage, I don't get the 16,000 IOPS. Then what is the throughput? What is the throughput? Not applicable. That means you cannot select any throughput here, and throughput is not a performance characteristic. But as per the Amazon, they will give you up to 250 MB per second. You cannot see that. That will be automatically assigned in the backend. So throughput is not applicable at the time of creating the EBS volume. So can we use this as a root volume or a boot volume? Can I use this as a root volume or a boot volume? Yes, you can use. That means I can use the GP2 type of a volume to install the operating system. And it is not supported as multi-attach. What is the meaning of multi-attach? Like the same EBS volume can be attached to multiple EC2 instances at a time. That is called as multi-attach, which is not supported by the GP2 category. Is it a free tier eligible? Yes, but the limit is up to 30 GB per month. In a given month, you cannot use more than 30 GB in size. And make sure that while you are creating the EBS volume, generally what we do, we will play with all the options, right? And we have to make sure that you have selected the correct size. Just to show the maximum IOPS, I have selected 10,000 GB, right? If I create with 10,000 GB, I will be charged from the moment I create it. Okay, let me go with the 1 GB. And what is the availability zone we have planned? US East 1A. And then let us use some tag. I will use a tag called name. And what is the tag we decided here? Yeah, this is the one. Just for identification purpose. And then click on create volume. So we created only one EBS volume now, right? And which is in which availability zone? So let me write down all the things so that while we are attaching, just you will get some clarity. So we created our first EBS volume. And this is in 1A availability zone. Or I think I have to mention the size, 1 GB in size, which is in the 1A availability zone, right? And now let us create one more EBS volume with a different category. Let us try to create all the types of EBS volumes across different availability zones. And we will note down the characteristics of each and every volume type. So in the GP2, based on this, we can understand that the minimum size will be 1 GB and the maximum will be 16 terabytes. And you cannot select manually the required IOPS. Based on the size of the EBS volume, automatically the IOPS will be assigned. And the assigning ratio will be 1:3 ratio. For every 1 GB, you will get 3 IOPS with minimum 100 IOPS. And under the GP2 category, you can get maximum 16,000 IOPS. And the GP2 can be used as a root volume, like you can use it as a C drive. And the GP2 is also supported as free tier eligible. And this cannot be supported for multi-attach. So now let us create one more EBS volume. This time I will create 2 GB in size. I will create 2 GB in size and in 1B availability zone, in a different availability zone with GP3 type. And with the tag GP3. Give me a second. Because every type of volume will give you different features. So GP3 will give you an option to select the IOPS manually. But again, there will be some restrictions, like by selecting 1 GB of volume, I cannot select 16,000 IOPS. Again, there will be some kind of limitation. Those things we will observe. So first thing will be the durability. The durability, what might be the durability? Any guess? The same durability. There is no change in the durability. Okay, and here you have to note down general purpose SSD of GP3 category. This is a different type, right? The above one is a GP2 and now this is a GP3. While creating this GP3, we will check what is the durability. Durability, we have to check theoretically only. That will be 99.8% to 99.9%. So what is the minimum size? So minimum size will be the same, 1 GB to 16 terabytes. IOPS will be 16,000. Throughput, you might get up to 1000 MB per second, but that is not applicable at the time of creation. In the backend, Amazon will take care of that. Every option is the same, but what is the difference is this GP3 will allow you to select the IOPS manual. Okay, now we will see while creating that particular EBS volume. Okay, so now to create that, again, go to the EC2 service and click on volumes under Elastic Block Store. Click on volumes under Elastic Block Store. Then click on create volume. So under the volume type, change this to GP3. So what is the minimum size and maximum size? Minimum and maximums are same. There is no change, right? Okay, minimum size will be 2 GB and the maximum size is a 16 terabytes in size. And here now IOPS. Is it automated IOPS or a customized IOPS? Customized IOPS means we can select the IOPS. So you can see, I can change this value, right? I can change this value, but on what basis I can change? So our requirement is 2 GB in size, right? Select the size as a 2 GB. And for 2 GB, I'm getting 3000 IOPS. Is it possible in the GP2? No. When to use the GP3 is if your requirement is with the smallest size of the hard drive with more number of IOPS, which is not possible in the GP2, right? I have a requirement with 10 GB size and 3000 IOPS. In the GP2, you cannot get that, but in the GP3, you will get. So first thing is here, the IOPS can be customized. Customized IOPS, that means we can select manually, but on what basis we can select? Can I select with 2 GB? Can I select like 16,000? No, then what is the ratio? What is the ratio? Minimum to be 3000 and maximum to be 16,000. There must be some ratio. What is the ratio? 1:2? Okay, so minimum is 3000, right? Okay, now let us say if I go with 100. For 100 GB, 16,000 is supporting. Okay, then let us go with 10 GB, but 16,000 is not supporting here. Then what is the maximum IOPS? 5,000. For 10 GB, we are getting 5,000, right? What about 20 GB? Then what is the ratio? 1:5. 1:5 means for every 1 GB, you will get 5 IOPS. Divide like, what we call that, 10,000 divided by 20. How much we will get? 500. So the ratio will be 1:500 ratio. I can say up to, this is not the fixed one, right? Up to 1:500 and GB is to IOPS with minimum 3000 IOPS. This is up to. Up to means there is no mandate that you have to select 500 IOPS. Your requirement will be 3000 IOPS only. You can select 3000 only. What is the problem if I select more IOPS? You will be charged more cost. Based on the IOPS, the charges will be varied. Okay. So while you are creating, go with the default one, which is a 3000. Okay. For 2 GB, how much we can get? For 2 GB volume, how many IOPS we can get? 2 multiplied with 500. What is the value? 1000. But minimum is a 3000, right? Minimum is a 3000. That's why you can select 3000 here. I cannot, if I select 1000, IOPS must be between 3000 and 10,000. So our goal is a 2. So the IOPS must be between 3000 and 3000. It will not allow you to select less than the minimum number of IOPS. If it is a 10 GB, then I can go with up to 5,000. But there is no mandate that you have to select 5,000. You can select between 3,000 to 5,000 any value. If I select 3,000, I might be charged like less amount. If I go with 4,000 IOPS, I might be charged with more amount. Whenever we are increasing the IOPS, the cost will be increased. Okay. And what about the throughput here? For the GP3, throughput is also available, right? You can see, you can get the throughput for GP3, which is not available on GP2. That means you will get a guaranteed throughput in the GP3. What is the ratio is, you can get 125 MB per second for every terabyte of a storage. And minimum is a 125 MB and maximum is a 1000 MB. Okay, so here, what is the max IOPS? 16,000 IOPS. There is no change in the IOPS. And throughput is, I can say, up to 1000 MB per second. MB per second. And here you can say 125 MB per second per terabyte of storage. For every TB, you will get 125 MB per second. Minimum should be 125. Whether you go with less than 1 TB also, you will get 125 MB per second. Minimum is 125 MB. If I go with 100, which will not allow you to select that. You can select between 125 and 1000. Any value you can select. Okay. All right. So now here, availability zone, that has to be 1B. Select the availability zone as 1B. And can we use this as a root volume? Yes, you can use. That is supported. Multi-attach, it will not support. And free tier, yes, up to 30 GB size. And don't change that IOPS. If you increase the IOPS from 3000 to 3001, you will be charged. Up to 30 GB and up to 3000 IOPS only. If you increase the IOPS, minimum number of IOPS, then you will be charged. Okay, right. And then we haven't created, right? So let me cross check everything. General purpose SSD, GP3, size is 2 GB, IOPS will be 3000. Throughput, I will go with minimum. Availability zone 1B. This encryption we can discuss in a separate session. It is a completely different topic, which is to secure the data. For data security, we will use the encryption. I will use a tag as 2GB-1B-GP3. This will be the tag. So what is the use or what is the advantage of the tag is, if you go to the EBS volumes, you can see the name here. If you don't use the tag, you cannot see this value here. You have to check, okay, this is a GP3 type and 2 GB in size. And then you have to scroll aside to find out the availability zone. Okay. So just to avoid that, in a single place, we can see all the values using the tags. Okay. So now what we do is we will go with the other type of the EBS volume. So the next type, what is the next type? Provisioned IOPS SSD. In that we have IO1. And remember, this is not the free tier. If someone is doing creating the volume along with me, Just make sure that this is not the free tier, and that is the costliest storage volume available on Amazon. But the way how to create the volumes is the same. Whatever the process we follow to create the GP2 and GP3, the same process we have to use for IO1 and IO2 also. But the only difference is the performance. You will get more performance, you will get more features, and everything will be different. Apart from that, the way how to create, how to maintain, and how to manage is the same. Okay, so if you are planning to create the IO1 volume for the practice, just make sure that you will be charged. Okay, right. So now here you have to note down all these values, right? So before that, here you can see the provisioned IOPS SSD. So we are talking about the IO1. What is the IO1 durability? The same durability, there is no change. There is no change. And the IO1 and IO2 are recommended to use if your application requires more than 16,000 IOPS. Because GP2 and GP3 will give you only up to 16,000 IOPS. It will provide you up to 64,000 IOPS. Up to 64,000 IOPS. I think recently they modified, and you can get, I think in the IO2, you will get more than 64,000 also. Like I think double the 64,000. No, not double. I think multiplied with 4, 256,000 or something. And the minimum and maximum sizes are 4 GB to 16 terabytes. In the IO1 or IO2, you cannot create a volume with 1 GB or 2 GB. Minimum must be 4 GB in size. Okay. And this also supported as a root volume or boot volume. So first thing, let us write down the thing, create. Wait. Let me copy this. Create EBS volume of 4 GB because the IO1 doesn't allow us to create a volume which is less than 4 GB in size. And this time I will create in 1A availability zone with IO1 type. Name tag will be 4 GB -1A -IO1. So durability is the same as the above, 99.8 to 99.9%. And the remaining values we will note down at the time of creating the EBS volume. After seeing the creation of the EBS volume of IO1, you can understand that the process will be the same. So you can ignore the creation of IO1 and IO2 volumes. So go to your EC2 service and click on volumes under Elastic Block Store. Click on volumes under Elastic Block Store. And then here click on create volume. So the volume type, IO1. Select the volume type as IO1. And what is the minimum size? 4 GB. Maximum size? 16 terabytes only. Okay, now I have a question like, can I create a size, a volume with 10.5 GB? Yes, okay. So what is the meaning of this second statement? What is the integer? Like it doesn't support the decimal values, like point something. You have to use the integer numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot use like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. The volume size must be an integer. Okay. So we have a requirement of 4 GB in size, right? And what is happening here? IOPS is allowed to customize, right? IOPS is allowed to customize. So I can say that minimum size is 1 GB and maximum size is 16 terabytes. IOPS can be customized, but on what basis? What might be the ratio? Okay, if I select the 4 GB, what is the message we got here? The IOPS can be minimum 100 and maximum 200, right? And here up to 50 IOPS per GB. So what is the ratio? 1:50. The ratio will be up to 1:50, which is GB is to IOPS with minimum 100 IOPS. Minimum will be the 100 IOPS. You cannot select less than 100. Yeah, minimum size is 4 GB, not 1 GB. 1 GB is for GP2 and GP3. And for IO1 and IO2, it's a 4 GB. If you go for throughput optimized and cold HDD, the values are different. If you go for magnetic drive, again, the value will be different. Even here also, you can see minimum is a 4 GB and maximum is a 16 terabytes. And throughput, not applicable. And what is the maximum IOPS? What is the maximum IOPS? Just to get that, I will type the maximum value of the EBS volume. So what is the maximum IOPS? 64,000 IOPS. I can select up to 64,000 IOPS. But here you can see some warning message here, right? What is that warning? If your EBS volume is provisioned with more than 32,000 IOPS, to get the advantage of more than 32,000 IOPS performance, you have to use that EBS volume with the Nitro-based instances. What is that Nitro-based instances means? Those instances got created on some special hardware. Let us say I have a T2.micro, right? If I attach this EBS volume with T2.micro, I will not get 64,000 IOPS. I will get up to 32,000 IOPS only. Just I will compare with a small example. Let us say you have very old laptop. Let us say 10 years old laptop. And recently you purchased a pen drive which supports USB 3.0. What is the use of USB 3.0 devices? The copy process will be speed up, right? The performance will be good. If I use that latest pen drive to the oldest computer, with how much speed we can copy the data? 2.0 only, because my laptop only supports the speed of USB 2.0. Even though my pen drive is the latest one, my laptop cannot support that, right? The same way, if you use this EBS volume to the regular EC2 instances, you cannot get that 64,000 IOPS. To get the full performance of 64,000 IOPS, you have to use this EBS volumes with Nitro-based instances. Nitro-based instances are the EC2 instances created on some special hardware. How to identify is depending on the family. Like we have T2, T3, C4, right? Based on that, you can identify what are the Nitro-based systems. These are the Nitro-based systems. If you create any EC2 instance with C6GD, M5, C5, A1, P4, these all are Nitro-based systems. Okay, but here you can see there is no T2. That means T2 dot anything is not a Nitro-based instance. Nitro-based instances will be created on a special hardware which will give you the better performance. Okay, so here I will give you the link also, Nitro instances. If you click on this link, you will get the list of Nitro-based instances. Only on Nitro-based instances, you will get 64,000 IOPS. Only available on Nitro-based instances. Otherwise, that will be 32,000 IOPS only. Otherwise, that will be 32,000 IOPS. And can we use this as a root volume? Yes. Yes, you can use that IO1 as a root volume. Does it support as a multi-attach? Free tier? It's not a free tier eligible. So if you create it, from the moment you create, you will be charged. That you have to check in the EC2 EBS volume pricing. So you can see EBS pricing, AWS. There is a page called docs.aws.com. You can go to Amazon EBS pricing. There you can see, or you can use the calculator. There will be AWS calculator. There you can see the things. So what is our type? IO1, right? So for every GB, you will be charged 0.125. And 0.065 for every IOPS. For every one IOP, you will be charged $0.065. And this cost is different from each and every volume type. And across the regions also, that will be varied. So you have to select the region first. There is a slight difference across the regions. In Mumbai, obviously the cost will be high. In Northern Virginia, that will be a little bit less. Okay. Right. So here we are going to create our IO1. The size will be 4 GB. And you can get up to 200 IOPS, but I will select 100 only. Or let us say change 125. Like instead of minimum and maximum, I selected something between the minimum and maximum value. And throughput, not applicable. Availability zone 1A, and it will allow or it will support as a multi-attach also. Yeah, we decided to create in 1A only, right? I decided to create in 1A. And then it will also supports multi-attach feature. What is that is, if you have IO1 volume, and you can attach that IO1 volume to multiple EC2 instances at a time. Again, that multi-attach feature will be supported on Nitro-based instances only. If you use a normal machine, you cannot, you can attach, but it will not work properly. Whatever the data you create from the EC2 instance 1 will not be visible on the second EC2 instance. That will not work as per the requirement. You can see that also here. Somewhere they will mention it is only supports with Nitro-based instances. If you use this link, they will mention that multi-attach feature will be supported on Nitro-based instances. Somewhere it will be there. Limitations. Not Nitro-based. It seems only on R5B instance. If you create R5B dot something, then only this one can be used as a multi-attach feature. Okay. If I use a T2.micro, that multi-attach feature will not work properly. But no one will use that multi-attach feature. But Amazon is providing you that, but no one will use that. Okay, so here I will go with the tag name 4GB-1A-IO1. Is that what we decided? Yeah, 1A-IO1. Click on create volume. And then quickly we will create one more volume also, which is IO2. Okay. And in the IO2, you will get more features than IO1. So here provisioned IOPS SSD, which is IO2. This will give you more durability, like up to 99.999% of durability you will get in this particular IO2. Wait. In the IO2, you will get more durability. So here, let me write down this. Let me copy paste. And I will edit the things. So create EBS volume of, let us say 6 GB in size. This time I will create in 1C availability zone with IO2 type. and the name tag will be 6 GB in size. Availability zone will be 1C and 2. Just give me a second. Let me copy this. So is there any change in the minimum and maximum sizes or IOPS? And what about the throughput? We will see that. Definitely durability there is a change in the durability. There is a change in the IOPS. And I do remember there is a change in the maximum size also. I think it will support up to 64 terabytes. We will see that practically, then we can note down. So if you come to this volume types, so here you can see the IO2 will give you 99.999% of durability. And then it will give you more IOPS also, 64,000 IOPS. It will give you 64 terabyte. And it will give you 256,000 IOPS also. And that is called as IO2 block express. Block express means there is no separate type. If you attach this IO2 volume on a special EC2 instances, then you will get this maximum IOPS. If you attach that on a normal EC2 instances, you will get a regular IOPS. I will show you all the things. And here, if you try to create the IO2 volume, just go there and click on create volume. The volume type to be IO2. So here what is the minimum size and maximum sizes? Minimum is 4 GB and maximum is 64 terabyte. That 65,536 is 64 terabytes. Okay. So first let me note down that. So durability is 99.999%. Minimum size is 4 GB in size and maximum size is 64 terabyte. But there are some conditions to get that maximum, what we call that, maximum size of 65 terabyte. See here, provisioned IOPS volumes with a size greater than 16 TB. And if you are looking for more than 64,000 of IOPS, or the ratio of 1:500 IOPS, are only supported on instance types that are supported with IO2 block express. That means if you create a 65 GB size, that will be created, but the 65 TB of space can be used if you attach that on these EC2 instances only. To get the maximum of more than 64,000 IOPS and more than 16 terabytes in size, and to get more than 1:500 ratio of IOPS, you have to use the instances on these volumes. Only these 4 types of EBS volumes. Okay. So let me note down that at the end. IO2 block express volumes are supported with these volumes. Block express means which you will get more than what you will get in the IO1, like more than 64,000 IOPS, more than 16 terabytes of storage. To get those advantages, you have to use this volume on these EC2 instances. Okay, so now coming to the IOPS. So our goal is to have the 6 GB in size, right? And IOPS 100. Minimum is 100, maximum is 6,000 IOPS, and it is up to 1,000 IOPS per GB. That is, the ratio is 1:1000. For every 1 GB, you will get 1,000 IOPS. So for this 6 GB, we will get up to 6,000. But if you go with more than 6,000, which will not allow. So the ratio will be up to 1:1000. So IOPS can be customized. IOPS can be customized. And the IOPS ratio is up to 1:1000 GB is to IOPS with minimum 100 IOPS. with minimum 100 IOPS. And why we need all this information is, let us say you got a request to create one EC2 instance and attach one additional volume as a D drive with 100 GB size. And they are looking for 3000 IOPS. Can we create GP2? With 100 GB volume, can we get 3000 IOPS in GP2 volume? No. For that reason, we have to know about these values. In which volume type, we will get what type of values. What are the characteristics? Apart from that, you will not be asked about any of these values in the exam or somewhere. This is required to create the volumes according to the requirement. So what is the maximum IOPS? What is the maximum IOPS? Okay, if I go with 65,536 GB, then you will get the maximum IOPS, right? What is the maximum IOPS here? 256,000 IOPS. You can get maximum of 256,000. That means like 2,56,000 IOPS. What about the throughput? Throughput is not applicable. And the availability zone, I will create in 1C. Does it support multi-attach? Yes. Throughput not applicable. Does it support multi-attach? Yes. Root volume? Yes, it supports. Multi-attach supported. Is it a free tier? No. It is not eligible for the free tier. So here, let me click on add tag name and let me use the tag 6GB-IO2. No, 1C-IO2. And then click on create volume. So we have created the four different types of volumes: GP2, GP3, IO1, IO2. These are the four types of volumes available under SSD category. And the remaining, whatever we are going to discuss in the next session, they are normal magnetic drives. Here you will get the performance in terms of IOPS. In those volumes which we are about to create in the next session, there you will get the performance in terms of a throughput. Okay, so now are you guys clear as of now, like how to create the EBS volume and the difference between GP2, GP3 and IO1, IO2? There is no difference or there is no change in the process of creation. Whatever the volume type is, the process of creation is the same. But the only difference is the characteristics, like the features, what you will get. Okay, right. So before closing the session, are you guys clear or any questions as of now? Okay, then tomorrow we can create the remaining volumes. They are very simple. We don't get these many options or these many features because we have only 3 left: ST1, SC1 and magnetic. And then we will start creating different EC2 instances across different availability zones. And we will see how to attach these volumes to your EC2 instances. Let us say you purchase one external hard drive. So if you don't connect to the laptop, you cannot use that storage, right? So how to connect these EBS volumes to your EC2 instances? That part we can cover in the tomorrow's session. Okay. Right. So if you guys are clear, let us stop the session and let us continue tomorrow. Okay. Right. Thank you, everyone. We'll continue tomorrow with the pending features of the EBS volume. Already you have typed, right? What is the path at the last line? In which folder you have to create the HTML file? Already you hosted a website, right? In which folder you have to create the index.html page? The location. Index.html is the file, right? In which location you have to create? The directory. Some folder you have to create, right? In which folder you have to create? Where www HTML. Okay. So in your user data, did you provide that entire path? Already you showed me, right? You have given where www index.html. Where is that HTML folder? You missed the HTML folder. There is a last line is there, right? What is that you have given? A sudo space, echo some statement, then greater than symbol, then slash where www, then where is the HTML folder? The location is where www HTML. So have you created your web hosting website? Before AMI, we have used that, what we call that, website hosting, right? Have you done that practical? Yes. Have you got the web page? Like, what do you, okay. In which folder you created that particular, what we call that web page, index.html? In which folder you created? Same where www or HTML also. This is the one I am talking about. That's what I am saying. In which folder you have to create this file? You are saying like, this is the folder. If you don't create this index.html in this folder, your web server is unable to identify your web page. By default, there will be one default web page is there that will be displayed, which is a test page, Apache test page. If you create the index.html in the folder, then your page will be displayed to the end user. So just modify the user data, like correct your user data with this particular folder. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then let us close the session here and let us continue tomorrow. For Linux server or Windows server? Linux. Okay, what is the error you're getting?